Alright, in this video we are going to go over the physiology of the heart. So the goal is going to be to get this whole notes page done. In this video we're going to go over different veins and blood flow and arteries and pathway, diastole, systole of the blood in the heart. And then in the next video we're going to add on all of this in orange, talking about the different action potentials of the SA node and then also just plain cardiac muscle. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with drawing just a heart. I'm not that artistically gifted, so unfortunately just a heart is going to have to do. And the heart is split up into 4 chambers. And I'm going to label this based on if it was myself. If I were looking at a patient, the left and the right side is going to be different. But for easiness to remember now, I'm going to make the right side the way that my right hand would be, and then the left side the way that my left hand would be. So this is the right atrium, right ventricle. This is the left atrium, and this is the left ventricle. And I remember these bottom two kind of look like V's. So V ventricle, and then the other ones are the atrium. But first, let's label everything on the heart, and then we can talk about the pathway of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood throughout the heart. So there are 2 valves within the heart. They're between each atrium and ventricle. So our first one right here is the tricuspid valve. And then this one over here is the bicuspid valve. Basically means that the right atrium has 3 kind of flaps on that right valve. And then on the left one between the atrium and the ventricle, there's only 2, so bi and tri. Now up here, we have these 2 little structures called the Vena Cava and the coronary sinus. Let's start with this purple one. This one is the coronary sinus. And this is going to collect deoxygenated blood from the coronary vein, and then it's gonna empty it into the right ventricle. Now, we can also just go ahead and note here that the coronary vein carries deoxygenated blood from heart muscle. So the coronary sinus and coronary vein are those veins that basically just circle around the heart. So coronary, we can think of heart. When we talk about the other arteries and veins here in a second, those are going to the whole body, but the coronary ones really just stay in the circulation of the heart. So next, let's point to, this is the Vena Cava, and there is a superior and an inferior part. So the job of this is that it carries blood into the right atrium from either the upper half of body, which is going to be the superior vena cava, or the lower half, which is going to be the inferior part of the vena cava. So those are the parts that dump in deoxygenated blood into the body. Now we have this thing right here called the aorta, and we also have another valve right here. So this valve is called the aortic semilunar valve, and this pink structure is the aorta. And the job of this is what the left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood into. This next travels to the coronary arteries, which returns oxygenated blood to heart muscles. So again, when we think about coronary, we think about the circulation that is just within the heart. So coronary is not going to go to the rest of the body, it's just within the heart itself. Okay, now that we have all of the components of the heart labeled, we can go ahead and talk about the flow of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in the heart. So I'm going to draw a box down here that represents the lungs. Let's start with deoxygenated blood. So I'm going to use blue to represent deoxygenated blood. What's going to happen is it comes from all of these veins. It's going to go through here, it's going to go through the valve, and it's going to find its way to the lungs to get oxygenated. And so everything that is deoxygenated is going to go to the lungs. Now, after the blood circulates through the lungs and it gets oxygenated, I'm going to make that red. So oxygenated blood is going to travel up. It's going to enter through the atrium, it's going to go all the way down, and it's going to go to the rest of the body. So hopefully these arrows make a little bit more sense, but we'll still talk through it. So when blood is entering the heart, it always enters through the atriums. So as you can see here, no matter if it's oxygenated or deoxygenated, it always enters through the atriums, and then it always gets pumped out through the ventricles. And so because the ventricles have to pump out blood and has very high pressure, it has to build up pressure in the ventricles to be able to push out the blood to the rest of the body, the ventricles are going to be a little bit thicker because they are going to have a higher pressure in them. Now, the difference between veins and arteries is I remember arteries away, which means arteries take blood away from the heart. It doesn't matter if it's oxygenated or deoxygenated, arteries mean away. So we said here, coronary arteries, that is taking oxygenated blood away from the heart. And we said up here, coronary vein, that is dumping blood into the heart. So veins take blood from around the body and put it into the heart. So for example, the pulmonary vein, you can think of pulmonary as in lungs. So okay, let's say you know pulmonary, lungs, and you know vein, it takes stuff to the heart. So what vein would take stuff from the lungs to the heart? It would be oxygenated blood. It would be the pulmonary vein. Now, the pulmonary artery, we can think, okay, pulmonary, it must have something to do with the lungs, and artery means that it's going away from the heart. So it must be going from the heart to the lungs, which is from the right ventricle to the lungs. So knowing the difference between veins and arteries are very helpful. If you know the pathways, and you should be able to figure out the different names and what they do in the heart. Really quick, we're also gonna kind of cover the difference between diastole and systole. So we have diastole. This is going to be when the ventricles are relaxed. And when this happens, blood from the atria are allowed to passively flow into those ventricles. When we think about the pressure gradients, when the pressure is lower in one area, blood is going to want to flow into that area. So the reason that blood can passively just flow from the atria to the ventricles is when that pressure of the ventricles is really low. So blood is going to want to flow in. Systole is contraction. Ventricles push out blood, and then the aorta ends up filling up with blood. All right, that is all I have for this video. In the next video, we are going to talk about something called the SA node. So I'll go ahead and kind of show you where that is going to be. It's this little point up here where all of the action potentials in the heart originate from. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the action potentials of the SA node compared to just normal action potentials of cardiac muscle, skeletal muscle, all of that. But that is all I have for this video. The notes will be on the link tree. It will be under biology notes. The PDF is going to be called Heart Physiology, and that's all for now.